Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wellness Wednesday webinar. My name is Rachel, a health promotion specialist, and thank you for joining me today for Who Can I Talk To? Today we have Gord Howe joining us from the Ccms, Complaint and Conflict Management Services, and Krista is in the chat today as well to help anyone live with any technical issues. I don't see anyone joining yet, but we'll give it a moment before we jump into the content in case anyone's just running a little bit late. So again, we welcome you back to these Wellness Wednesday webinars that Health Promotion is hosting on Wednesdays at 8:30. We hope you've been able to join us before, but if this is your first time, welcome. The platform Gemio is fairly easy to use. We have a chat to the right, tools and handouts as well. Those won't be live during the recording. So if you are joining us later on and this is a recording for you, welcome. Glad you could find this content. You won't be able to see the chat or the polls or the handouts live, but you're welcome to contact me for any of the handouts that I'm providing, and we'll be reading out any of the interaction in the chat so that you have context for what's going on, again, if you're viewing this as a recording. If at any point people would like to turn their microphones or video on to ask a question, Krista can also do that for us as well, but I'll wait to see if anyone joins live and I'll remind you if that's required. So a quick sneak peek for what's happening in health promotion coming up next week. We are launching Nutrition Month. It's a really exciting program that we always look forward to every year, hosted by the Dietitians of Canada. It'll be a really exciting series of webinars with prizes to be won each time, so we're looking forward to that. And I'll be providing more details on how to join at the end of today's webinar as well, so stay tuned for those details on how to win. Now, before we get started with today's content, I'd just like to remind you that, again, this session is being recorded, but anything that's posted in the chat won't be live for that recording. Again, this is content and property of Strengthening the Forces, the Department of National Defense. So any personal recording or reproduction of this content is not permitted. The topics today are meant for those over the age of 18 and not intended for children. So please use parental discretion as you see fit if you're listening to this webinar with little ears around. Again, you can find this recording at PSP Kingston, Adults Health Promotion, or on the PSP Kingston YouTube page. Now, we don't have anyone live today, so we won't be asking this polling question to get an idea of who's in the webinar today, but we hope you're joining as a recording and you're able to gather all the great information from the Ccms. Now, it's hard to believe that we're approaching March again. Feels like March just ended, and not on a particularly good note for pretty much everyone. The pandemic has affected all of us somehow, some more than others, and some likely in ways that we haven't even realized yet. Some of us are feeling like, we're maybe in a dumpster fire, right? Maybe things feel like they're okay on the surface, but we're really struggling with what's going on in the broader context of the world and what our neighbors are struggling with as well. So I think it's important to start today with a small self-care act. Before we get into the content, ask yourself, what do I need right now? It could be a glass of water. It could be to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Maybe a little quad stretch if you've been sitting all day and you're still sitting to watch this webinar, or maybe you'd prefer to watch this webinar standing up. Maybe you need a snack. Scan your body, find what you need in this moment, and do that for yourself. You have permission. You can do that. So these small acts of self-care are really important for us to maintain our social wellness during this time. but we can't stay well with just this alone, right? These are good things to help us maintain, but we need to reach out and have that strong support system as well. Health promotion is here for you in that support system. You might have friends, family, animals, or coworkers that are part of that support system for you. But you also have the CCMS, the Complaint and Conflict Management Services. So ask yourself, have you heard of the CCMS before? Is this a familiar term or is this new? So Gord is here joining us today to give us some more information. If you're already familiar with the CCMS, maybe you're learning something new, or maybe all of this is completely new and this is a new support system you can add to your circle. So first things first, Gord, welcome. Gord is a great friend of health promotion and is always here to support our programming, whether that's mental fitness and suicide awareness, to respect in the CAP, to many, many other courses. He's always there to provide that information to participants. So to start, could you introduce yourself, Gord, and just let us know your current role at the CCMS?
Okay. Thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate it. I thank PSP for inviting me to participate in this and helping us inform people about the CCMS. Myself, I retired after 43 years service in the military, a long career, many different jobs, came up through the ranks, commissioned from the ranks, and became an adjutant. And in that capacity, I became a harassment advisor, harassment investigator. And from there, I was trained as a mediator within the military, posted to the Dispute Resolution Center in Edmonton. I actually helped set up all of the DRCs across Canada. From there, I was posted to Kingston and was a mediator here. And I was on a working group about 6 or 7 years ago for the Vice Chief of Defense Staff. And he was asking us to be able to describe what the different methods were to resolve conflict in the Canadian Armed Forces. So we put that all on paper, and then he challenged us to come up with a way to do a one-stop shopping to resolve conflict. And the product of that is the CCMS. So I was there from the beginning in establishing that. We established 4 centers initially, one in Valcartier, one in Montreal, one in Kingston, one in Borden. And that was in 2016. And we've now expanded to 16 centers across Canada. I am the supervisor at the CCMS Kingston. And as such, I have a team that works for me, plus I do the agent's job.
Amazing. It's awesome to have all that knowledge of how the organization began in the Canadian Armed Forces and how it's been supporting people and evolving through the years. For those people who are starting to join us live, again, we have Gord Howes with us today from the CCMS, offering information on how they can be an additional support person for you and your family. So next up, Gord, what does a day in the life look like at the CCMS?
Obviously, it's varied day to day. Every day is different, especially in the pandemic. During the initial part of the lockdown, we were completely working virtual. However, as soon as there was a little crack in the system, we started occupying the office again. So we receive clients either virtually or live. Obviously, we have them practice the proper protocols when they come to see us. And so basically, it's people either referring to us from one of our biggest referral agents is 33 Health Services and Mental Health, sending people to us, or they self-refer, or the chain of command reaches out to us. And people come to us, and we do an intake with them. And then from there, we provide them options. So, our numbers of intake really haven't declined during the pandemic, so we're still very operational, getting a lot of people reaching out to us. Circumstances are a little different because pandemic has obviously caused other issues. The other side of my normal day, probably the most ho-hum part of it, is the statistical portion of what we do. We have to record everything we do. And part of that is so that if somebody does file a grievance or harassment complaint, it is in our tracking system. And at any time, the member can reach out to us, ask us a question about their process, and we can track that and get them their answers. Again, not my favorite part of the job, but it's a daily occurrence.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to jump back to how you mentioned all of the various ways you can connect with people, whether it's in person or virtually. People can get their referrals from 33 Health Services or self-refer. How would someone go about self-referring? Do they call? Do they come down to the CCMS location? What's better?
Obviously, again, under the pandemic, we prefer that people call ahead of time. So my local's there on the screen, 4904. Right now, that's probably the best number to call because I'm normally the only one that's in the office. Our building is locked. However, if somebody did show up there, there's a doorbell there, and if I'm free, obviously I will make time to see the person, again, following proper protocols. A lot of times the chain of command or 33 Health Services or the transition unit will call up and normally with the client right in the office, ask if I have time. And normally I will make time for somebody and they'll come directly over to our center.
Amazing. And you also mentioned reporting in that not so fun part of your job. What does reporting look like, and how is confidentiality maintained in these meetings?
Okay, so first of all of our intakes and any correspondence that we do with a client is confidential. Anytime that it is deemed that we have to talk to the chain of command, reference the issue that the members brought to us, on our intake form, there's actually a place where the member signs to give us permission to talk to the chain of command. And with that, we'll discuss with them exactly what we're going to say to the chain of command on their behalf. And if the chain of command goes outside of those arcs, we'll stop the conversation and go back to talk to the member because they haven't given us permission to talk to the other side of it. With our tracking system, it is protected. You need a PKI card to get access to it. And all the unit ADGs or harassment advisors have access to the system, but they only have access to their own files. So if they input, let's say one of the units inputs files, they have access to their unit files. However, I have access to all the files in Kingston. So even if I haven't put it in, let's say an adjutant in one of the units puts a file into the system, I can see it. And anybody in my organization in Kingston can see it. But it's only the Kingston office can see Kingston material. This is an issue actually that I'm dealing with right now because I'm also the supervisor for Petawawa. And so I only have access right now to Kingston files. So I can't see my files in Petawawa. So it complicates doing my job there. But that's what was built into the system to do what exactly you're talking about, to keep that confidentiality so that people's files are limited access and that their information is protected.
Great. And it's great to hear that because we know the chain of command can be that support system as well, and they should work to be that support system for the members, but it can be intimidating to seek that support out sometimes from the members' point of view. To have you help set those boundaries and facilitate that is a great way to make sure that we're using that chain of command as support.
Yeah, and just to add to what you're saying, is that there's only one person normally in the unit that can see it. So if a person's leery about their chain of command seeing what's going on, let's say their OC or the CO, they don't have access to the ICRITS files. Normally, like I say, the adjutant has access and can see that information.
Right. That's great. Yeah, it gives a lot of reassurance to better understand what that confidentiality looks like and to build that trust. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're talking a lot about the member right now, but we know that family members are a really key part in the conversation as well. How can does the CCMS first of all support family members and civilian members, and how would they go about that?
Okay, so I mean, there's two parts to that question. On civilian members, our mandate right now is only to support military personnel, people in uniform. However, since we stood up, anytime a civilian worker has come in, we have treated them like we would a normal military member, and sought to help them and provide them with whatever assistance we can. So that part is basically the same as what we do for military member. Family members, unfortunately, no. We can't assist them as such. We can assist them through the member if the member brings concerns for us, and it's things that we can deal with on that level. But again, we have to be very careful, because once we get outside the realm of the military, our liability protection, we don't have it, obviously, because we work for the CAF, and therefore we're not protected outside of that system.
Mm-hmm. And it's still so important for civilian staff or family members to know about these services, because we're also closely connected to the member as well, right? So being able to...
Absolutely. And just because I say I can't deal with a family member, if the military member comes to me and with those issues, my job throughout the whole thing is provide options. So if they have a family issue that they're dealing with, I'm going to help them, provide options for them, or refer them to somebody that can help them. So it's not like, if a family member comes, we slam the door in their face. We try to assist people as much as we can. And if it's something that's outside of our scope, then we're going to refer to the proper people to help deal with it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, you have a good pulse on Kingston, right? Being able to lead people in the right direction and where those services do exist, because there are so many. That's why it's hard to pick when we're talking about this topic of who can I talk to, who can I call. There really is a lot of people in the military community that you can call or you can talk to, but it's knowing how to get there and where they're located and how to find that contact. So you're good.
Absolutely. And the thing there is that, again, we're not ambulance chasers saying that, every case has to come through us and we deal with it. We're very proactive we're probably a starting point. Like I said, the one-stop shopping where people can come and talk to us, and we're going to refer to wherever we have to refer people to. Again, we're like, my whole motto really is to help the soldier and get them whatever assistance they want. When I say soldier, that includes the civilian member. Is, if we don't have the services or it's outside our scope, obviously we're going to reach out and help that member find the proper place to get the help they need.
Great. Thanks, Gord. So with that, we know in health promotion, there's so many ways that you support the member and your clients. But what's one thing that often surprises people about the services or how you can support people when they're struggling?
I think the biggest thing is a lot of people come to us with the mindset that they want to use a rights-based process. So they want to file a harassment complaint or a grievance, and their mindset is basically that's the only way that they're going to get any remedy to the issue that they're dealing with. But at the end of the day, after I've heard the person's story, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide them options. And probably only one of those options is going to be the grievance or harassment complaint. The other side of it is going to be we really push to have things resolved informally. So part of that is my team is we have a conflict managed practitioner working for us. So that is what used to be known in the forces as a mediator. A lot of other skills that person provides. So if a person comes to us and wants to resolve the problem informally, we'll try to work with them in their chain of command to come up with a remedy informally, or have them referred to our practitioner who will also help them with the skills to be able to resolve it informally. And so with that, most people think of alternate dispute resolution as mediation, but that's only a very small part of what we do informally. One of the biggest things we do is conflict coaching, which gives people the skill to have that difficult conversation. So if you come to me and you're looking to resolve an issue with somebody else, not sure how to do it, we can work with you, give you those skill sets to be able to sit down with that person with the confidence that you can have that conversation. With the conflict coaching, we can also use it for the chain of command. If they're going to have that difficult conversation with the member where they have to do a PER or administrative process that they have to do, we can do coaching with them to help them have that conversation. Another big thing that we're starting to do and getting really into is restorative work. So after that conflict has happened, is how do we fix the parties involved, and how does a workplace get fixed? So there's a large scope to what we do. That, the door opens when the member comes to talk to us, but as soon as that door is open, there's a whole wide variety of other options to provide for the parties.
Yeah, it's not just the problem that's the problem, right? It's approaching it, and then how you get to that solution that people are looking for,
right.
That closure, right?
Yeah, and I guess the thing to add to that is that I'm not there to solve anybody's problem. I can't do that because I don't live inside their skin. I don't know what they really need, but I'm there to assist them as much as I possibly can to get to that resolution that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that approach really resonates with people too. We do have a question in the chat, and just a reminder to everyone who is joining live that you can ask your questions in the chat, or you can request that Krista, our moderator today, turns on your microphone and you can ask it your question that way as well. So the question we have right now is, can a civilian refer a member to the CCMS?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter to us how a person gets to us. So whoever refers them there, that's fine. It's the fact that they reach out to us and we have that chance to do that intake to try to point them in the right direction.
Great, good to hear. Now, second question, does the CCMS still have an office space at RMC?
Yes and no. Obviously, because of what's going on with the pandemic right now, we're not down at the peninsula. Very few people are, and actually they're just starting to open up right now. However, I work very closely with Sharon Nicholas at the Success Center, and I share an office with her when we're back to the normal processes. I will spend time down there at the Success Center, either actually in Sharon's office, or if there's privacy that's required, there's other rooms that we can break out to. But for RMC, we formed that team with the Success Center so that we can help people in all aspects of the RMC side of things. So Sharon is obviously a SME in the academic side and the functioning governing of RMC. I have that expertise in the military side of things. So we work together normally on most cases to make sure that we give all aspect coverage for personnel that can reach out to us. And it's important. There is a lot of people think that when we're talking RMC that we're just there for the students. There's a lot of staff at RMC, both military and civilian, that we are there to help.
Yeah, especially as this year everyone's managing with virtual learning, and that's really tough being at a distance. Those virtual services are still there too, right? So
absolutely,
you can still connect with them wherever they are. Next question connects to the theme that health promotion is focusing on this month, which is dry Feb. So offering that challenge to members to either cut down on their drinking, maybe commit to a full week or a full month of going dry and not consuming alcohol. So can and has the CCMS supported people who are struggling with alcohol, and how would you approach that support?
It would probably be a secondary side of things. So a person normally wouldn't come to us with those issues. Now, I've had times where I've obviously seen with people in my office that they are having some abuse issues. And so I will, as much as possible, try to get them to go to mental health to try to get to see the base abuse, the person that deals with those problems, and work with it that way. And it's goes the opposite also, where they will refer those individuals to me once they've identified that they have the abuse problem. But a lot of times those problems are caused by stressors in the workplace. And that's where we become important to help that member move forward, is how do we deal with those stressors in the workplace? We're going to be there to try to help them work through the problems that they have, the conflict, the complaint, and to get them some sort of sense of closure there. And with that closure, that's one less thing that is pushing that person to that abuse, and leads to them being able to be healed or cured from their abuse that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to make sure that all the support systems are connected makes a lot of sense, because if that stress isn't gone, then how do we have time to change our coping skills, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple questions back about solving things early and trying to be informal, and we've heard that motto, that unofficial motto of the Kingston CCMS of early, local, and informed. So what do you mean when you say resolving things early, locally, and informally?
Okay, so the first one obviously is early. And that's really important to us, because normally when people come to us, they're in stress, they're in crisis mode. And so it complicates resolving the issue they're dealing with, because we have to deal with the emotions, the crisis that the person's going through, be able to get that dealt with before we can actually deal with the issue. So it's really important that the people, as soon as they identify an issue that they're dealing with that's providing stress in their life, and they might not think it's much, but it's always good to reach out. I'm always, one of us is always there in the office and willing to talk to somebody. And the earlier they talk about that, the easier it is for us, first of all, to help them, give them coping mechanisms on how to deal with the issue that they're dealing with, and how to face that issue before it escalates. And conflict is like a tornado. You have the incident that happens, and then it just starts spiraling and spiraling, getting bigger and bigger and more out of control. So that's why we really push early. The sooner you try to resolve it, the less we have to work through to try to bring it down to being manageable. I talked about the informal part before, is that, yes, everybody has the right to file a grievance and a harassment complaint. And I will never, ever stop a person from doing that. And if that's what they decide they want to do, we'll assist them to do that. But one of the things I always ask people is, what do they want for closure? And what does that look like? Because a lot of times when let's say if it's a PER issue, it's not the fact that they want to put a grievance in and go through all the paperwork. They just want somebody to hear them about what their concerns are about their PER. So it's a lot easier if we can help them sit down and have that discussion with their supervisor to discuss the PER than to go through a grievance. Because if a person's involved in the communications of resolving their issue, they have input on what that solution looks like. Once they put in a grievance or harassment complaint, they've lost really control of the resolution to that issue. They can state what they're looking for, but a third party is going to make the on how that's going to be resolved. So the more the person can stay involved in the issue that they're dealing with, the better is that result is going to meet their needs. So that's why we always ask. That's always one of the options that we push for people is to do things informally and locally. What we're trying to do there is, again, at the lowest level, trying to resolve things. So there's no sense reaching up to the CDS to try to resolve a PER issue if you can do it with your sergeant that's your immediate supervisor. So try to do it at the lowest level, because that's normally where you're going to get the answer anyways. You can go up as high as you want, but they're going to come back down to that lowest level and ask them for their input in resolving it. So if you can deal with that person at that lowest level, they're going to have more respect for you because you've done that. You've respected them in their ability to help you, and they have more understanding of what the issue is, and we're going to give you a better response and a better resolution than what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned before, if someone doesn't feel comfortable, going to that sergeant or going to that person, you're there to help them, either gain the skills that they need to do that or to find someone more appropriate, but still keep it locally. So that's the great support that you have too. And it's a great reminder that you don't need to come in with formal paperwork in order to access the expertise at the CCMS either. So we have another question, just for you to go over to briefly introduce the other team members that you have in Kingston. Who else is at the CCMS office?
Okay, so the other agent that works with me is Bill Irving. Bill has been around Kingston for a long time. He's also a retired service member. Bill likes motorcycles. He's a biker. But again, he's a lot like myself, has a great knowledge of the forces. And actually, he and I were the ones that started the CCMS here in Kingston. So we've worked together for a long time. The conflict management practitioner that works for me right now is Jennifer Bell. Jen's been around again in this area for probably eight years or so. Very highly qualified mediator. She's instructed at the college level mediations and conflict resolution. She has, I guess the thing about Jen that I would say is she's a very hard worker, always dealing with multiple cases, and very capable. And I guess her and I work really well together because there's lots of cases where ADR is voluntary, and I will get people to come to me looking for to resolve things that I think ADR will work for, but they're not really willing to volunteer for the process. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'll still refer them to Jen so that she can give them a briefing on ADR. And she has that magic way of talking to people and persuading them that might be the best way to resolve their issue. So those are the other two people that work for me right now. There is a Class B captain position agent for Kingston that isn't filled right now, that I hope to advertise in the springtime after the new fiscal year. So if there's anybody out there that is thinking of retiring or is a Class B captain, would be interested in the job, by all means, get in touch with me.
This is your sign.
Yeah.
And Gord, can you just briefly explain what ADR is?
Okay, ADR means alternate dispute resolution. So again, that's that informal way of resolving conflict. So the processes that we normally use for resolving that are facilitation, mediation. They're both basically the same type of process where a neutral third party sits down and assists the parties to have a discussion. A big thing about mediation facilitation is that we're not there to make people friends. That's not the outcome we're seeking. We're trying to get them to collaboratively resolve the issue that they're dealing with. So in a mediation, it's more formal, where you sign an agreement to mediate that talks about confidentiality, ground rules, that sort of thing. And at the end of the mediation, you sign an actual settlement where both parties sign into it. And that's actually the strength of a mediation, is people will spend hours building that agreement through collaboration, not compromise, but collaboration. And because they've put so much effort into building that solution, they put as much effort into maintaining it and making sure it works. And what we'll do at the end of it is we'll actually get the parties to make a decision on what they're going to do if this solution breaks down, how they're going to deal with it, what steps are they going to take to maintain that solution. So that's part of ADR. Like I mentioned before, conflict coaching is a big part of it, where we give people communication skills, either chain of command or the members themselves. We do group assessments. This is where we'll go in if there's a section that are having systemic issues. We'll go in and assist them to try to resolve those issues. That's a process that the member can bring to us, but we need the chain of command's involvement and agreement to participate before we can do that. Other things that we do is restorative work, like I talked to before, where we try to help rebuild the workplace after an incident or something's happened, or between two individuals, help them to restore it. And we also run a course called Resolving Conflict Effectively, which provides people with the skill set of being able to, when they find themselves in conflict, how to try to resolve it at the lowest level by having that one-on-one discussion with the other party. And we run another course where the RCE, Resolving Conflict, is a priority, or you need it before you take this course, called Conflict Management for Leaders, where we basically teach facilitation skills. So it gives that third party the skills to be able to lead two of their peers, subordinates, in a conversation to try to resolve the issue that they're dealing with. And that's basically the things that we do with ADR.
So many things, so many options and ways that you can support both proactively during a situation and following up too.
Just another point to that is, I think I should add, is that ADR doesn't necessarily mean that you come to us to use our facilities. ADR is, again, an alternate way to resolve things. So, one of the first steps of harassment is, if you feel you're being harassed, you reach out to that other person, which is very difficult at times, but that's supposed to be the first step, is to actually go to that other person, let them know how you feel, and try to resolve it one-on-one. If that doesn't work, you go to your supervisor, and they're supposed to try to help resolve that. So that's all part of alternate dispute resolution. It's other ways to resolve conflict. So, we do have a big part to play in it, but the members also have a big part to play in it.
Yeah. And if anyone is curious about these services, or something stood out to you, whether it's the trainings, the different courses and whatnot, Gord's contact and local is there on the screen as well. So I'd encourage you to jot that down. If there's any other questions, I'd ask you to put that in the chat now, or request to have your microphone turned on, as we are on the more conclusion side of the webinar at this point. So don't miss the opportunity to ask those questions if they're in your mind. So again, Gord is a great support of health promotion as well, and often comes to various courses to provide this information, like Respect in the CAF or Mental Fitness Supervisor or Suicide Awareness, which are both MFSA is that supervisor course. Also, our Intercom program is actually created from a lot of the content that the CCMS offers as well, but the content comes from their national program, the ICCM. And that program is actually going to be running with the KMFRC, the Kingston Military Family Resource Center, this April. So if some of this information is resonating with you, that Intercom program might be of interest as well. I will be putting the registration link in as a featured action in just a moment. So you can find, click the wrong one. You can find that on our PSP Kingston page. This one is actually linked to our Nutrition Month page. I don't have our general HP one. I missed that, but you can then go to health promotion courses. Oh, Krista has it in the chat. Thanks, Krista. And you can register for that Intercom program as well. Intercom on the HP side is more focused on those personal relationships. So it really meshes well if you're seeking support from the CCMS, more about workplace conflict and so on. So they really mesh well together and again, provide that full circle support that we all need. Again, health promotion is always here as that support system as well in our 4 pillars. And the pillar that we're focusing on next month is Nutrition Month. So like I mentioned, we have those webinars coming up starting next week. It's already March. So you can click that link that I have live for you now for the Nutrition Month webpage. You can check out the Demio links there, and you can register there for the course next week. I also have the registration link live for you. So if you'd like to just go to Demio and register for that next week, you could win this Pampered Chef 6 place serving set. It has a little ice tray underneath, and it would be great for when we have that post-COVID party and we can have some friends and family over. So you can start preparing for that celebration. So Sharon will be talking about nourishing. Is our mind full, or are we being mindful about eating? Both are good for you. So that's at 8:30 again. We have that 6-compartment serving tray available, and prizes to continue throughout Nutrition Month. We're also offering Managing Angry Moments in May, so that's a great follow-up to Intercom as well. And you can follow that same registration link that Krista has in the chat. Finally, we do have Mind Muscle program that is being launched on Facebook. So you can find that again on that health promotion page through registration. It's a great program that health promotion specialist Sharon Ash has been the lead of. You can choose 3 ways to participate in different mindfulness challenges and to incorporate that into our daily lives. Whether it's joining the Facebook group and interacting with other people who are trying to do the same thing and offering suggestions, or it could be participating in the 8 Mindful Minutes 21-day challenge, which goes right to your inbox, or the first month or the first webinar of each month for Wellness Wednesdays features Mindful Minutes. So being sure that you register for those first webinars of the month, and you can join for the Mindful Minute Wellness webinar. So the first one of March is next week, and it's about eating mindfully. The last question that I have is a poll in the chat, whether or not you feel like this information was relevant or not to you today, if it was helpful to your daily life. So if you are here, you could click on that, and there is a brief handout with more support services and key resources that could be part of that support system for you. That's live there as well, and the CCMS number is also listed there. Thank you so much, Gord. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend the morning with us and again, spread the information and the resources that the CCMS has. We appreciate you, and it's great to see you. And we hope everyone takes care and enjoys the rest of their day. Contact emails are here if you have any additional questions.